This is a true story from my life. I was 23 when it happened, and I still feel the wooden grain of that table under my palms like it's carved into my memory. I slid a notarized deed across the scarred pine table in a Gatlinburg A-frame and told my ex and his friends to pack. The cabin they loved was mine. A fire snapped in the stone hearth, and their Bluetooth speaker still spit top 40 into the smoky air while tacky string lights blinked along the porch railing. The cabin reeked of cinnamon brooms and spilled fireball. A birthday banner sagged over the sliding glass door because we were all celebrating him. Minutes earlier, my iPhone, cracked, buzzing against the knotty log banister, had pinged one last time with the group chat that spent a year mocking my divorce settlement and calling me Cash App Charity, not knowing I'd bought the one thing they loved most with the money they thought made me pathetic. If you genuinely enjoy our stories, please subscribe to the channel, tell us where you're from, and what time it is right now. It's always fascinating to know how far our story flows. I got married stupid young. When I say that out loud, people tilt their heads like a dog hearing a faraway whistle. I was 21, a junior at the University of Tennessee, Knoxville, hustling double shifts at a coffee place on Cumberland Avenue, taking night classes 3 days a week, and living off Waffle House waffles and hope. Chase was 2 years older, a walking Tennessee smile with a good jawline and a startup that lived in his laptop like a dragon hoarding seed money. He had a way of making Knoxville feel like a trampoline to bounce on instead of a town to grind through. He'd show up at my register with a bouquet of orange tulips and a grin that got me to clock out early and ride shotgun to Pigeon Forge, blasting music with the windows down on I-40. We eloped in a courthouse with slick floors and fluorescent lighting that made my skin look like chalk. We told people it was romantic, and for a few months it was. He'd bring me Twizzlers during my finals. I'd listen to pitches he practiced into the bathroom mirror. He promised we'd be the couple who worked and won. Then real life unpacked its bags and decided to stay. Chase's best friend, a guy named Rylan, ran with him since their fraternity days. Alpha this, beta that, the Greek letters blur when you're the one they call the fun police because you care about not getting evicted. Rylan had a girlfriend, Bree, a candle-in-leggings blonde with a laugh like a car alarm. Their social circle orbited around the boys, who treated the Smokies like their private backyard. Drunk hot tub nights, content weekends, Airbnbs they never cleaned, women they never named after Sunday. I used to go along because I thought if I made myself easy to love, I'd be loved. Then the cabin happened. It wasn't ours then. It was a place Rylan found on a balcony in their forum, A-frame, dark green slanted roof like a folded letter, 12 minutes up a curving road off the parkway, just past the tourist throngs buying moonshine trios and fudge slabs. The listing photos showed a view that felt like a screensaver, layers of blue ridges stacking into forever, the kind of quiet you think you can buy. They booked it once, then twice. They built a story around it, our cabin, our mountain house, our year-end reset. We went for New Year's first, me stirring chili in a crock pot, them playing beer pong with a wreath as the ring. Chase kissed me on the deck at midnight while fireworks stitched the horizon. I wanted that moment printed on a mug. 2 months later, I found a lipstick print on his hoodie that wasn't my shade and an Uber receipt to an apartment complex in Bearden at 2:13 a.m. He swore he'd been dropping a teammate. What team? The Entrepreneur Olympics? And I did the emotional calculus women are taught to do, minus my self-respect, plus the future he kept dangling. I stayed, but staying made me the villain in my own diary, and even if I kept writing us, the ink was getting watery. The cheating proof piled up like parking tickets. A stray hair tie in the truck I didn't own. A DM reply on his Apple Watch from Jenna UTK at 1:07 a.m. that read, "You up?" and his "miss you" answer. His location flickered off whenever he said he was grinding with the boys. And then the worst, the chirpy, cruel group chat. I saw it because Rylan left his phone on the cabin counter one weekend while he went down to the garage to check the beer. Men treat beer like it's a newborn. The group chat was named Cabin Crew, and there I was, a character without lines. Bree screenshotted my Venmo description, rent plus utilities, and wrote, "She's a GoFundMe with bangs." Someone replied with a meme about divorce settlements, like I was cashing in on a failure I hadn't even filed yet. I filed after that weekend. The courthouse smelled the same. I wore the same coat. This time I took my friend Liv, a nursing major with a spine made of piano wire, who squeezed my hand while a clerk in a cardigan explained irreconcilable differences, as if it wasn't code for he hollowed you out. The settlement became a joke to them. Never mind that it was small, the kind of number that pays off a used Kia and some student loans if you stretch it till it squeaks. They called it pity money and beer money. They nicknamed me Cash App Charity in the cabin crew chat because emotive cruelty passes for humor. When people are a little afraid, you'll climb out of the hole they dug for you. After the paperwork, I moved into a 2-bedroom off Sutherland Avenue with Liv. I bought a sensible couch from Target and a silverware tray that aligned every fork like it mattered. I took a second job at a print shop on Gay Street, learning the smell of ink and paper. Dust, feeling calm, watching orders render into billable rectangles. My days stacked like folded laundry. I stopped drinking sugar through straws. I slept. But the cabin kept whispering. It showed up in my dreams like a rerun of a show that never got renewed. And every time they posted another photo from our place, Bree with a beanie, Chase with a whiskey, the caption, "Hard resets in our home away from home," my heart did a small, sharp thing I refused to name. I wasn't jealous. I was angry. Anger is a cleaner fuel when you use it wisely. Liv's superpower is bureaucracy. She can charm or pressure people who sit behind windows and stamp things for a living. She's the one who taught me the county website wasn't a desert. Sevier County Trustee's office has the delinquent tax roll online, she said, eating pizza off a paper towel at our wobbly coffee table. People forget to pay when they're too busy filming themselves in hot tubs. Happens all the time. We see it in ERs, too. Nobody thinks of paperwork until the sirens. I didn't think of us as predatory. I thought of myself as someone who wanted the universe to balance a scale it had let tip for too long. And also, the cabin was in my head, and it felt like the only way to make it quiet was to put my name next to it in a ledger. So I learned. I learned parcel IDs and how a property can be like a ghost in the spreadsheets, haunted by liens. I learned how an LLC can own a cabin, and how Rylan had started one called Smoky Summit Rentals, LLC, because even bros know acronyms can be masks. Their filing was public. Their mailing address was a UPS store mailbox. Cute. I learned notices of delinquent taxes are mailed and posted, and that a missed year can become 2 if no one is watching the mail, and the auto pay fails because the card expired during a Cabo trip. I learned how a county sets a tax sale, how bidders gather like vultures, but pay like surgeons. There was a page on the Sevier County site, badly designed, pale green hyperlinks like ivy, listing parcels slated for sale in late November, 3 weeks before finals. I scrolled and scrolled until I saw it. The parcel description matched the A-frame's address, Smoky Summit Rentals, LLC, delinquent 2 years. I sat so straight, I thought my spine would ring like a tuning fork. "Liv," I said, pointing. She leaned over, squinting. "You gotta be kidding me." We checked and double-checked. It's easy to read what you want in a screen's glare. But the lines were clear. The cabin was heading to auction for delinquent property taxes due. Not a mortgage foreclosure. The mortgage was current. But if you don't pay taxes, the county comes for its piece, and it's allowed to take the whole if it has to. Smoky Summit's registered agent was a legal service in Nashville, the kind that forwards mail and shrugs when you ignore it. Rylan and Chase were about to learn the county is the one quiet machine. You can't charm? I spent nights at the kitchen table with a yellow legal pad and a gel pen. Numbers, dates, interest rates, fees. I talked to a clerk named Doris at the trustee's office who explained procedure like a bedtime story. Deposit, cashier's check, upset bids, redemption periods. Tennessee allows a redemption window after a tax sale, time for the previous owner to pay the bid amount plus a premium and costs to reclaim it. That worried me. If they had money, they could get it back. But redemption windows can be strategic traps. If they'd mocked my settlement once, they'd misvalue a deadline twice. The deposit was $5,000. The balance would be due within a short window. I had enough from the settlement, even after paying debts, if I wasn't dumb and didn't buy takeout for the next 2 months. Liv and I made a plan that involved rice, beans, and eggs, so many ways it felt like science. She told me, "You're allowed to be serious. Most people never get the chance." In the meantime, the cabin crew kept talking. I had a cheap second phone on my AT&T plan. Call it an artifact from my marriage, a shared account I won in the settlement. When Chase upgraded, he handed me his old phone, and I'd kept it tucked away, wiped clean, or so he thought. Somewhere in that messy chain of Apple IDs and shared plans, a ghost of a login remained. One night, it lit up with a notification. Cabin crew, weekend head count. It wasn't all their messages, just a ghost mirror of Ryland's chat on that cheap phone. But it was enough to see that they were planning a Friendsgiving birthday bash for Chase at the cabin the same weekend as the auction. It was the kind of cosmic coincidence that makes you look up at your ceiling and say, "Okay, universe, I see you." I wasn't going to tell them. I wasn't going to warn them. They mocked me, and the law is not a petty god. It's a plotting machine. I also didn't want to do anything illegal. I printed every rule I would need to obey and taped them above my desk. I highlighted phrases like strictly prohibited and upon confirmation. I made a checklist: deposit, ID, cashier's check, property research, insurance quotes, locksmith contact, property manager interview. I called 3 property managers in Gatlinburg like a nerd, scheduling joy. One, Marlene, with a voice like unsweet tea, told me she could have cleaners on standby the day after the sale if the good Lord and the court do their parts. Dad called the week before the auction. He lives in Murfreesboro and uses long sighs to punctuate sentences. "You sure about this, Meg?" he asked. "You're 23. "I'm sure," I said, sounding like the adult I was pretending to be. "It's not a revenge purchase." He hummed softly. "It's okay if it is a little." Auction morning was cold enough to spiderweb frost across the Kia windshield. I wore my sensible coat, the one from the courthouse, because it felt like a charm now. The Sevier County Courthouse sat square and solid, its brick warmed by a sun that hadn't done much work yet. People gathered in jackets and hats that said things like, "Make America Fish Again," murmuring over clipboards. The trustee's office had set up folding tables and one of those tiny microphones that make bureaucrats sound extra official. I had my cashier's checks in a manila envelope, each check made out to the county trustee. The envelope felt heavier than paper should. Liv was beside me, hair in a high ponytail, face set. She'd taken a shift swap to be my second set of ears. Doris, the clerk, recognized me, smiled, and said, "You're the one who asks good questions." I said, "I'm the one with the gel pen." And she laughed. They read parcel numbers and addresses like reading off battleships. People bid. Some parcels went cheap, some went furious. When they called the cabin, I felt my pulse jump like a fish in a bucket. The auctioneer said the minimum, the total delinquent taxes plus fees, and I raised my number. A guy in a camo jacket raised his. I raised mine. He frowned, scratched his beard, and shook his head. It stalled anyway, like all seconds stall when you want them to sprint. Then the auctioneer said, "Sold," and the manila envelope in my hands turned into something else, proof that I wasn't crazy to believe a woman could write her own ending. The redemption window still existed. Legally, Smoky Summit could claw it back, but they would have to pay the bid, plus interest, plus a raft of fees, and do it within the statutory period. I had a plan to make it hard, make the cabin's code, the household accounts, and every vendor change hands immediately so they felt the inconvenience in their teeth. Most importantly, I would not advertise anything. People like Rylan get bored by letters without emojis, and redemption requires paperwork. Doris told me, most folks who lose it at sale don't talk to us until it's too late. They're embarrassed. I nodded, but let's be honest, I counted on pride doing what pride does. I drove straight from the auction to Gatlinburg, with Liv's best "don't text and drive" glare burning a hole in my cheek. Marlene from the property management company met us in a Food City parking lot and handed over a blue plastic folder. "Welcome to property ownership," she said. "It's mostly replacing batteries and telling grown men the hot tub is not a vat for soup." Her cleaners were already scheduled for tomorrow. The locksmith was en route. We arrived at the cabin at 2:17 p.m., and it looked the same as it always had. Green paint, triangle face, a little smug. Ryland's Jeep was already down in the carport. A balloon with HBD and gold letters bobbed against a support beam like a drunk. I parked on the gravel pull-off above the house and watched for a second through the pines, feeling the fiche et leaf-stained wind, as if it could answer my questions. Then I squared my shoulders, grabbed the blue folder, and walked. The locksmith met me at the door, a man in a Carhartt jacket who had the quiet dignity of people who can pick locks but prefer keys. I showed him my paperwork, the bill of sale, the tax deed processing receipt, the county stamp that blesses things with seriousness. He nodded like a man who has seen worse, and then he changed the code on the digital lock and clicked through the deadbolts. Inside, the cabin was a catalog of the weekend. Cake on the counter, confetti on the rug, a stack of Solo cups, and a banner that said, "Birthday Legend." Hey, Bree said, coming in from the deck with a phone in her hand mid-Instagram story. Seeing me made her face do a math problem it couldn't solve. "Megan, what are you doing here?" "Property inspection," I said, calm enough to scare myself. "As of this morning, I'm the owner." "You need to know something important. I wasn't there to humiliate. If humiliation happened, it would be a secondary effect of reality asserting itself. That boundary mattered to me, even if it sounds self-righteous now. They laughed at my settlement. They treated me like a punchline. They cheated on me until the word cheat felt too small. But I didn't want to be cruel. I wanted to be correct. "Get Chase," I said, "and Rylan." They arrived like a meme. Chase with a paper crown skewed on his head, Rylan shirtless under a flannel like a lumberjack influencer. For a beat, we were all 20-something and stunned. Then the boys defaulted to their power. Noise. "What are you doing in our cabin?" Rylan demanded, louder than the room needed. "You can't just. This is trespassing. I'll call the sheriff." "Please do," I said, and pulled out a trifold folder with plastic sleeves like I was auditioning for a community theater play about procedure. "I've already called for a civil standby just in case. Should be here in 20. This," I set the bill of sale on the pine table, "is from the tax sale this morning. Smoky Summit Rentals, LLC was delinquent 2 years. The county sold the parcel. I was the highest bidder. I have a right to immediate possession for changing locks and securing the property." Chase took the paper like it would bite. His eyes moved left to right and back again, the way they do when words don't give him the answer he wants. "This is a joke," he said, but it sounded thinning, as if the sentence had to jump a gap to reach us. "It's not," I said. "You'll get official copies from the court clerk's office by mail. If you want to talk redemption, talk to your lawyer. Meanwhile, here's a list of personal items we'll store in the carport for pickup tomorrow between 9 and noon. After that, they'll be considered abandoned." "That's illegal," Bree said automatically, eyes bright with tears that knew when to show up for her. "It's not," I said softly, and slid her the policy from Marlene's blue folder about guest property. And I'm not a monster. You can pack a bag now. I'll give you 40 minutes before my cleaners arrive. The sheriff's deputy arrived as punctuation. He was kind, in a way law can be when it isn't terrified. He looked over my paperwork, nodded, and took up a spot by the stone fireplace, like a human exclamation point. The locksmith moved around, a quiet ghost replacing codes and cylinders. The Bluetooth speaker ran out of battery, and the silence settled. Humiliation, betrayal, suspicion and discovery, villain's power, protagonist's resolve, escalation in war, revenge payoff, chilling resolution. If life had chapter headings, that would have been mine. But it didn't. It had breath and heartbeat, and the twins of rage and relief. You used the divorce money, Chase said at last, like he'd swallowed a live thing. You used my money. I laughed, once, sharp. It was my settlement, I said. It was compensation for the time I spent believing you when you told me love was a pitch deck. And yeah, I used it to buy your vacation cabin. Rylan cursed, a word that sounded cheap in that pretty room. We'll redeem, he said, like he'd just learned the verb. We'll call Mike. He'll wire it. You'll be a footnote. You should, I said. You've got a set period defined by statute. There's interest and a premium. It's doable if you act like adults. I didn't add that I'd bet my gel pen they wouldn't. Pride is a poor executive assistant. Packing is humbling. It turns adults into teens skipping town. They move through the cabin in short, quick bursts, ripping through drawers that weren't theirs to begin with. Bree stuffed makeup into a tote. Chase found the birthday crown again and crumpled it into a trash bag like he could bury the thing something meant. Rylan slammed a door, and the deputy counseled him with a look that translated to, "You're not that guy." On the sliding glass door, the birthday legend banner sagged, a weird smile. I stepped onto the deck. The view was exactly as advertised, blue on blue on blue. The neighbor's wind chime clinked like a polite laugh. I put both hands on the railing that used to be ours in photos that they'd claimed in captions as theirs. It felt like leaning out a window on the life I wanted and the life I got. I had chosen. The world had conspired to let me. When the cleaners arrived, brisk women in hoodies, with a cart full of supplies, Bree had already vacated the master with a duffel. She saw them, and her face did that bend people do when they realize a place they treated like a stage is actually a business. She left without a word. Rylan carried out a cooler and a box of party favors like he was in a sad parade. Chase lingered. We could have been good, he said, a last-ditch pretense. You didn't even try. I tried more than once, I said. You tried everything else. He nodded, a slow acceptance that wasn't admitted out loud. Then he looked at the deed again, and his mouth twisted. You got what you wanted, he said, and walked out without looking back. I did the boring, joyful work. I took meter readings. I photographed the condition of every room with my phone. I emailed the power company and the gas company and gave them my name, my social, my life. I walked the perimeter and found the little metal stake that marked the corner of the lot, and I stood over it like you stand over an open book. Marlene texted me a list of winterization tasks. I texted back a heart. I called my father and let him be proud in his softly worried way. Liv jumped on the bed in the guest room, and then, when she saw my face, jumped off with an apology and an offer to retuck the corners. That night, the cabin didn't sleep. It hummed with every old thought. I lay on the leather sofa, the one Rylan once bragged about getting on Facebook Marketplace for a steal, and listened to the house creak. The new lock clicked like a heartbeat. For a second, the pride felt like a confection, too sweet, too airy. Then I remembered the county webpage, and the way shouting men fell silent when the gavel sounded. The candy turned into something sturdy, like bread, Redemption, if it came, would come by certified mail and bank wires. I had 30 days to fortify my position with paperwork and payments that made everything less reversible. The law doesn't care about your narrative arc, but it does respect checklists. I set up the business account for my very own LLC, half a joke, half an armor. I filed for a business license with the city. I hired a bookkeeper who talked to me like I was smart. I set a cleaning schedule that turned chaos into calendar entries. I didn't post a single sunset photo. The cabin crew went quiet mostly. The ghost account lit twice with misspelled rage. "Hope your pity money keeps you warm," Rylan wrote. "Enjoy the hick shack," Bree wrote. It was funny how small their vocabulary got when the stage lights dimmed. Chase didn't write. That was its own message. The rental calendar began to fill, not with them, but with paying families who wanted to show their kids snow for the first time, and retired couples who held hands in photos without showing their faces. When the certified letter came, it was not a redemption notice. It was a query from a law firm in Nashville representing Smoky Summit. The letter said, in smooth font sentences, that they believed the sale was improper because the delinquency notices had been sent to the registered agent's address rather than the manager's home address. Doris at the trustee's office talked me through it with a smile in her voice. "That's not a thing," she said. "We send to the address in the file. If they want to complain, they can file a petition. The court will laugh, but politely." They didn't redeem. They didn't because it would have meant admitting they'd messed up, and people like them don't like to pay for admission. The cabin crew still went to the Smokies sometimes. They booked cheaper places, houses that looked like sheds with aspirations. I knew because I still had friends who floated at the edges of their circle. Knoxville is a small city wearing a big shirt. Once, Liv saw them at the Buc-ee's on I-40, filling a cart with beaver nuggets and performing content into their phones. Rylan put an arm around Bree like he was hugging likes. Liv ducked into the jerky aisle and texted me, "You dodged a stupid bullet." And I laughed out loud in the dairy section of Food City, startling a man who was just trying to buy milk. When spring slid in, like a quiet apology, the redemption window closed. The tax deed became a deed. I drove to the courthouse again, and this time my coat felt too heavy for the day. The clerk pushed paper toward me for signatures, and I wrote my full name like I was practicing for a new life. The notary stamped his stamp, and the clerk smiled, and I walked out into sunlight that made the courthouse bricks look like something from a postcard. On the way home, I stopped at a craft store and bought a simple frame. I printed a copy of the deed and put it above the cabin's fireplace, not like a trophy, but like a receipt from the universe that I could finally file away. Rylan DM'd me one more time in May, a private message that did what men do when the audience is gone. He made it sound like I'd hurt him. "We made memories there," he wrote. "You took those away." "No," I typed, and deleted it. "It was yours," and deleted it. "You mocked me," and deleted it. Finally, I wrote, "Pay your taxes next time." He left me on red. The cabin taught me boredom that tastes like peace, cleaning a stovetop that will be dirty again, rolling towels in a way that looks like care, changing batteries before they die. It taught me I'm not a person you can keep at a table where they're serving jokes instead of dinner. It taught me revenge can look like a mortgage payment, and an LLC bank account, and a date night with yourself on a deck where you breathe and hear the leaves talk to one another. It taught me that sometimes the most devastating thing you can do is hold a mirror and a receipt at the same time and let people see themselves in fluorescent light. When I host friends, even new ones who didn't know the old story, we end up on the deck with mugs of coffee that taste like something you finally earned. We don't say the word divorce like it's a curse. We say it like it's a street we once walked down and now know how to avoid. We talk about stupid boys and stupider girls. And then we talk about jobs and school. and the way Tennessee light can make a mountain look like a promise. This was a true story. You don't have to believe me. Cabins don't care about your belief. But whenever someone posts another hard reset weekend photo from a rented hot tub, I smile and send a reminder to my cleaner to stock extra dishwasher pods. I send a donation to a women's legal aid clinic in Knoxville on the 1st of every month, a tithe to the version of me who sat under fluorescent lights and signed papers so someone would stop talking over her life. Sometimes I imagine the cabin crew's faces when they tell a new friend the story about their cabin and the friend says, "You mean Megan's place?" It's not kind, it is honest. The last time I saw Chase in person was a summer Saturday at a farmer's market back in Knoxville. He was holding a carton of strawberries like a prop. I nodded. He nodded. He opened his mouth as if to say something that would make him feel better. I saved us both. "You look well," I said. He said, "You too." For a second, one then gone, I thought of that New Year's kiss on the deck and the fireworks sowing light across the dark. I thought how easy it is to want exactly what hurts you if it comes with music. Then I thought of the frost on the Kia windshield and the auctioneer's "sold" and the first night I slept in a house with my name on it. I thought of the deed in its simple frame. I drove to Gatlinburg that afternoon, took the winding road up to the A-frame like I'd won a secret path and kept it. At dusk, a family from Ohio checked in, their kids' squeal carrying up the stairs like a soundtrack. I left a welcome note on the pine table, the same table where I'd slid a deed like an arrow. The note said, "Welcome. Please enjoy the porch at sunrise. The birds are show-offs. There's a deck blanket under the couch for chilly mornings. Please don't leave food out. The raccoons are thieves and will judge your snack choices." I signed it with the cabin's name, which I'd changed from whatever generic thing Rylan liked to something I wrote when I was 15 in a notebook, Ridge Light. In the morning, before anyone woke, I made coffee and stepped outside. The ridges layered like paper cutouts, blue shadows folding into each other. My phone buzzed on the railing. A booking request for June. A confirmation email from the county. Deed recorded. A donation receipt. I put my phone face down and watched a hawk cut the air like a statement. I keep the group chat screenshot, the one where they mocked my settlement, in a folder on my desktop, buried but reachable. Not because I need to remember them. Because sometimes a woman needs proof that she can pick an object off a table, a manila envelope, a blue folder, a house key, and use it like a compass. I used my divorce settlement to buy their vacation cabin, and if that sounds petty to you, then you've never had someone laugh at your life and call it theirs. I didn't take their memories. I took back my future. Every now and then, the Bluetooth speaker acts up, probably a ghost of some pairing, and the cabin tries to connect to Chase's iPhone. It makes me laugh every time. I press forget this device, and the cabin goes quiet again, ready for new music, better playlists, and a story that finally belongs to me. The end.